He was 73 years old. He'd built something in that town, something real. Every single day for 53 years, Ed Smith showed up to his filling station on the corner of downtown Florala, Alabama. He knew everybody. He treated everybody right, even the troublemakers. That kindness may have gotten him killed. On the night of January 3, 1978, someone Ed Smith recognized as one of his own customers walked through the front door of that station just before closing time. 2 shots rang out. Ed Smith was dead. The suspect was identified. He was charged. He went to trial, and he walked out of that courthouse a free man. For the next 38 years, Ed Smith's family had no justice, no answers, no closure. Then, a prisoner in an Alabama jail started taking empathy classes, and everything changed. Welcome back. If you're new here, I cover true crime stories that don't always make the national news. Cases where justice was delayed, denied, or discovered in the most unexpected ways. Today we're going to Florala, Alabama, a small town in Covington County in the deep south of the state. Population under 2,000. The kind of place where everybody really does know everybody. And that familiarity is what makes this case so tragic, and ultimately, what made it solvable. This is the story of Ed Smith, a cold case that went nowhere for nearly 4 decades, and the one investigator who found the crack that broke it wide open. You have to understand who Ed Smith was before you can understand why this case haunted his family for so long. Ed Smith wasn't famous. He wasn't powerful. He was a small-town businessman who had simply shown up every single day for over half a century. His filling station sat on a corner in downtown Florala. He'd been there for 53 years. He knew his customers by name. He extended credit. He made change. He was, by all accounts, a fixture of that community, the kind of man who holds a small town together without anyone quite realizing it. His son, Charlie Smith, would later recall his father flashing the money clip he kept in his pants pocket. He'd pull it out to make change, and everyone in town knew he carried cash. That habit, as innocent as it was, made Ed a target. On the night of January 3, 1978, Ed Smith was 73 years old. He was at the station, winding down for the evening. Just before closing time, someone came through the door. 2 shots fired. $150 money clip, stolen. Ed Smith was dead. Charlie Smith got the call from his sister that night. She was hysterical. I couldn't believe it at first. Florala police didn't have to look far. The suspect was a local, an 18-year-old named David Bonner, someone Ed Smith knew personally as a regular customer. Investigators believed Bonner had targeted the old man deliberately. He knew about the money clip. He knew Ed would be alone near closing time. He knew the station. Robbery was the motive. The math was simple. David Bonner was charged with what amounted to capital murder under Alabama law. But here's where things began to go wrong. When police arrived at the scene, they took no fingerprints. They didn't even properly secure the crime scene. The initial investigation was, by any measure, deeply flawed. When Bonner went to trial, his defense attorneys went to work on those holes, and there were a lot of them. David Bonner never took the stand. He didn't have to. His lawyers dismantled the prosecution's case piece by piece, and the jury came back with one verdict: not guilty. Charlie Smith couldn't process it. It was a tremendous shock to me. I just didn't see how it was possible. Just a lot of holes his defense attorneys had punched in the case. Ed Smith's killer walked out of a Covington County courthouse a free man, and there was absolutely nothing the family could do about it. One of Bonner's defense attorneys, Harold Albritton, would go on to become a federal judge, a justice for the U.S. Middle District Court in Montgomery. When a reporter later tried to reach him for comment on the case, he didn't return the call. Life doesn't stop just because justice fails you. Charlie Smith opened his own pharmacy in Florala. He kept his father's old gas station running too, right across the street from his pharmacy. Every single day he could see that corner. Every single day he lived with what had happened there. The family never stopped believing David Bonner was guilty. They just had to live with the fact that the law had let him go. Meanwhile, Bonner's life took predictable turns. Before the Ed Smith murder, Bonner had already been a suspect in a burglary case back in 1975. He was convicted on that charge and served 11 years in prison before being paroled. Then, in 1995, in Montgomery, Alabama, David Bonner killed again. This time, there was no acquittal. He was convicted and sentenced to life without parole. He was sent to Holman State Prison near Atmore, one of Alabama's maximum security facilities, where he's been ever since. So for the Smith family, there was some grim comfort in knowing Bonner would never be free again. But it wasn't justice for Ed. It wasn't closure. It wasn't the truth. For 38 years, no one in law enforcement officially revisited the 1978 killing. The case sat dormant, cold. Until approximately 2015, when the Covington County District Attorney's cold case team decided to take a fresh look. The agent assigned to the case was Chris Inabanet, a veteran with the State Bureau of Investigation. He knew going in that he was working with almost nothing. The original crime scene had been compromised from the start. Physical evidence was negligible. Witnesses from 1978 were decades older, some gone entirely. And the man most likely responsible was already locked up for life, with no legal obligation to say a word. Inabanet had to find a different angle. He started with David Bonner's prison records, and buried in those records, he found something unexpected. David Bonner, the man convicted of a second murder, sentenced to die in prison, had voluntarily enrolled in courses about empathy, programs designed to help inmates understand how crime affects victims' families. For a seasoned investigator, that detail landed differently. So to me, that got me to thinking, after all these years, that was still on his mind. That empathy coursework meant something. It meant guilt. It meant a conscience that hadn't gone quiet. It meant there might be a door. Inabanet went to Holman Prison. He sat down with David Bonner. Bonner denied everything, flatly, calmly. But Inabanet didn't give up. He kept going. And then, after a lengthy interview, the wall came down. David Bonner confessed to the murder of Ed Smith. After 38 years, he finally told the truth. David didn't show any emotions at all, Inabanet recalled. The confession was real, but what Bonner said, and what he left out, is worth examining closely. Bonner claimed that his original intent had only been robbery. He said he hadn't planned to kill Ed Smith. According to Bonner, when he pulled the gun, Ed Smith grabbed for it, and it went off. Charlie Smith doesn't buy it. His father was 73 years old and small-framed. David Bonner was 18, young and strong. I don't know. It doesn't sound like my dad would take a gun from somebody. And then Bonner said something that cut right to the heart of the tragedy. He told investigators that Ed Smith had always been kind to him, always treated him like any other customer. I think what really hurts, Charlie Smith said, is the fact Bonner admitted my dad was nice to him and treated him like any other customer. There's something particularly cruel about that, being murdered by someone you were good to. There's also another disturbing detail that emerged during the investigation. The gun David Bonner used to kill Ed Smith belonged to Bonner's own stepfather, who at the time was a serving officer with the Florala Police Department. The weapon used to kill a beloved community member was a stolen police officer's gun. Now here's the hardest part of this story, the legal reality that no one in the Smith family could escape. Because David Bonner had already been tried and acquitted for Ed Smith's murder in 1978, the Fifth Amendment's protection against double jeopardy applied. He could not be tried again. No matter what he confessed to, no matter what evidence existed, the law's hands were tied. There would be no second trial, no formal conviction, no courtroom justice for Ed Smith. But something happened that no legal proceeding could have offered. David Bonner agreed to meet with Charlie Smith, face to face, inside Holman Prison. Guards stood in the room. Bonner was shackled at his feet, and for the first time in 38 years, Charlie Smith heard the words from the man himself. Bonner began with an apology. He said, "I know nothing can bring your father back," Charlie recalled. "I think he was sincere." Charlie described Bonner as solemn, quiet. He said it was a confession, not just because Bonner admitted it, but because he told the full story. Whether that apology was enough, whether it ever could be, is a question only Charlie Smith can answer. But what he said about forgiveness is striking. We've all done things we're accountable for. We all need forgiveness. That's a man who found a way to live with something almost impossible to carry. This case doesn't have a clean ending, and I think that's exactly why it's worth telling. David Bonner will never stand trial for killing Ed Smith. Double jeopardy is a cornerstone of American law, and it applies here fully. There's no legal mechanism to change that. But David Bonner will also never be free. He's serving life without parole for the 1995 murder in Montgomery. He remains at Holman State Prison. The Smith family got something that not every cold case family ever receives. The truth, spoken out loud, by the man who did it, in a room where Charlie Smith could look him in the eye. That's not the same as a conviction, but for some families after 38 years, it's what justice actually looks like. Agent Chris Innibinet found the crack in the case not through forensics or witnesses, but by reading a prison record carefully enough to see a guilty conscience hiding behind an empathy course. That instinct broke a 38-year silence. And Ed Smith, the 73-year-old filling station owner who showed up for 53 years, who treated everyone like family, whose worst habit was pulling out a money clip, finally had his truth told. The corner in Florala, where Ed Smith's filling station stood. His son Charlie still keeps it going. Some things in small towns don't change, even after everything that tries to break them. If this case resonated with you, subscribe. New videos every Tory. Drop a comment below. I read every one. And as always, the names deserve to be remembered.